I'm Graham Sinclair and welcome to Gone Fishing. I joined Chris Jolly and Colin Jones for a day of adventure. For someone to dive and hunt successfully in the same location, you generally need good local advice. This is how to organise a feed when the locals are obliging and you're miles from the nearest supermarket.
Pretty much normal for here, Graham. Yeah, it is. But I'm sure we'll get a feed one way or another. It's not very often you find ideal conditions here, which I suppose is part of the reason why there's usually plenty of stuff in there.
Well, it's good that crayfish have a lot of spines, because even when you're chasing them by braille, you know when you get one, because you start bleeding.
Exactly.
That's good.
Yeah.
Any power out there?
Yes, there are. Yeah, there are. We look forward to them. So that'll be Jones's job.
That's my mission, so I choose to accept it.
Yeah, well, you're the snorkeler.
Yeah.
Yeah, no power on scuba.
Absolutely.
Absolutely no power on scuba. Great, well, I'm looking forward to the feed. I'm happy to sit this one out. This visibility is not good enough for the underwater camera.
Well, I think I'll go before my courage.
You think I'm what?
I think you're chicken. You better get your gear on and get in there.
These people know that I'm not a bloody chicken.
Well, they might, but we
Just
don't.
sensible. Would you go out this year, have a look at the conditions out here? Ask yourself. You get a bit more sensible as time goes on. Well, some of us do. Some of us don't.
All right, we'll go and do it.
Right, team, bring back the feed.
Before I run out of Carrara.
Colin Jones has collected a wealth of outdoor knowledge. If anyone knows how to land food for the larder, it's him. Armed to the teeth, look out seafood.
You reckon you get a feed?
I think so. It's always been very profitable down here.
What's happening here? Some
This,
feed?
just in case there is a motor or something to fix, I'm prepared.
It's good. It might be a little bit ragged, but spend some time out there.
The rust never worries them down here.
Oh, that's good.
They breed them tough.
They must be Nissans.
They are. But mind you, you never need one of these with a Nissan.
Absolutely, you're onto it. You need a screwdriver for prizing the power off the rocks. Got a big, broad, muscular foot, and if they sense that you're there, they clamp down hard on the rock, and the screwdriver fixes that. If you start getting a couple, I might have to put the hairy tights on.
You could do.
And come for a wee wade. Well, we're on the coast between Narwee and Castle Point, at a place that shall remain nameless, because apparently the power here are legendary, and so are the crayfish. So are the sea conditions. These guys are only in about 2 feet of water out here. I better put a bloody wetsuit on or I'll never live it down.
I got pretty excited as I geared up. Power and crayfish in knee-deep water means that you can catch lunch regardless of sea conditions. This was developing into quite a day.
I couldn't scoff a feed with a clear conscience if I hadn't contributed to its capture, so I'm going to go and have a go at this. If I get anything interesting, I'll bring it back and let you have a look.
It didn't take long to make a contribution, but what is most important is that we took enough to provide a hearty lunch, and that was all. The regulations state that you are allowed 10 legal-sized power per diver per day and 6 legal crayfish. These guys value the resource beyond those regulations and only take what they can eat fresh. My favourite recommendation in these situations is to take enough for a feed and leave the rest alone. While it is exciting to find seafood in these quantities, it is even more exciting to be selective about what you take and know that you can come back regularly and do the same thing, grab a feed. There are still plenty of places around New Zealand where you can supplement the larder with relative ease. For that to continue, everyone must respect the regulations. I would love to think that my children can visit this beautiful coast in 20 years and catch a feed just as we can today.
Beautiful fish. One there, a bit on the margin, but that one there's good 5-inch power. Beautiful. That one there was not big enough. Those two there. Go back to the sea.
Oh, hello. The diving weapon managed to get a few, if I can see here. Here we go. What a great spot, eh? Feet of bloody powers, 5 minutes flat.
Right.
And the odd crawly thing just for a laugh.
Yep.
Look at that. The old crayfish. I'm back out of the water and reaching under the rocks to grab them.
Somewhere in here. Let's grab that one,
Can't
Jonesy.
fault that.
He looks like
Magic spot. Good lad.
Don't find them in every hunting camp there.
No, you don't. No, this isn't a bad hunting camp at all. What else is there on the coast that we can have a look at, Chris?
Well, there's actually from time to time some seals, but I'm not so sure that you really want to have a look at them. But there are down the coast here further. But of course, the prime reason that we're here, apart from getting a nice cray and a power from time to time, but it's chasing the deer. So I think that's what we should take you up to the camp and have a look up
Go
there.
and chase a deer.
Have a look at the scenery and see the sea from the front veranda, which is about 1,500 feet up that way. So,
Great.
I mean, 1,500 feet upwards, not
Really? Well, what about a feed?
power fritters, huh? What do you think?
Not bad, mate.
Yeah, we're not very good deer hunters, but we're master power fritter makers.
You know what people hate? They hate it when I'm sitting on in front of the television and I'm going, oh, you know, you can imagine a feed of power fritters and we're getting really upset about now, the old team. Oh, come and have a power fritter or three. Ooh. And maybe an ugly bugly.
Yep.
Great.
We only take the males down here. It's one of the rules that we have.
Is it?
Yep. It's the owners prefer it that way, so it's one of the things that we respect. I'm pleased to see you did that.
Actually, the whole hunting thing can be pretty rough on the blokes, really, can't it?
It is. And it's,
Same with the deer.
yeah,
The
absolutely.
family car. This is the place to stretch the legs of your four-wheel drive. Chris wasn't joking when he said that the Blowhard hut was 1,500 feet straight up. It also turned out that he wasn't exaggerating about the quality of the hunting, and a little later we'll head out in an attempt to supplement the larder with venison. It is claimed that most people who own recreational vehicles never engage four-wheel drive, and therefore never fully appreciate the pleasure of navigating off the beaten track. These vehicles can be a passport to many an out-of-the-way New Zealand gem. This track drops you right in the middle of great hunting, tramping and photographic opportunity. A real slice of outdoor New Zealand.
Where does most of your business come from?
Scattered. We have a large corporate clientele, predominantly out of Auckland, but if we sort of look towards the bona fide hunters that come to New Zealand just to hunt, the States, Australia, Europe, just New Caledonia this year, Tahiti on a regular basis, scattered.
So is the Blowhard hut set up primarily for hunting?
It is, very much so. We have hunters come from all around the world to be here, but hunting is the primary reason, but we try and deliver an experience too, which is an outdoors experience, and I think you've already seen part of it.
Mate, well, it started pretty well, didn't it?
It did.
Your power and a feed of crays.
Sure.
Now, how are you going to do these power and crays?
Well, the crayfish is pretty traditional, isn't it? We're really just going to cook them by boiling them. With
Okay.
the power, I prefer to put them in the crayfish water. That's after the crayfish have been cooked, and drop them in there for 30 seconds to a minute, and it softens them right up. You know, everybody imagines that you have to sort of cover the power with a tea towel and hit them with an axe for half an hour, don't you, to soften them up. But this way, a friend of mine showed me some time ago, it just softens them up beautifully, and there is no need to, if you wanted to eat them in one piece, then to have to soften them up by any sort of devious means.
Ooh, that's a goodie.
But what
We'll
we'll
show
put-
you that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a newie. You don't have to beat the living daylights out of your power to make them tender. Your old mate's got the trick.
Yeah. Then we'll probably put them through the mincer for all that and make up some nice patties, I think. Yeah.
Beer batter, is it, mate?
Beer batter? Yes.
So how do you make it? What's the trick?
The trick is, of course, that the cook gets to have a beer while he's making the batter. I mean, you could make it with milk, but with beer it's much better, isn't it? So just some beer and a little bit of baking powder, flour, obviously, and eggs, and make it pretty thick so that it's going to hold the minced up power together, and it's good. I mix a little bit of onion in with the power, the finely chopped up power once I've been through the mincer. Some onion, a little bit of soy sauce, and a little bit of red wine. Once again, the cook gets a chance to taste or partake of the red wine, but it is most necessary for the power, as you will understand.
Sure. Now, it hasn't taken me long to cotton on to the fact that you guys are pretty unusual. You've got a fire going outside and you fill the hut with bloody smoke. I mean, most people have huts, they try and get the smoke out of the hut.
Well, that's true, but we do enjoy, you know, as part of the outdoors experience, to cook on a fire outside, but weather sometimes dictates that we have to cook inside as well, so we try to get the best of both worlds.
No, that's good. I like the smoke touch in here. You can't see the eyes watering at the moment, but
Yeah.
it's all right. It's a great place here. Beautiful holiday spot. Lumps look good, mate. Is there any trick to getting the lumps just in the right sort of size and shape?
Down to the right consistency.
Yeah.
Yeah, there is. Sooner or later we lose patience with the fork and get out the egg beater.
Good.
But
Yeah.
until you get it mixed in a little bit, you end up, the egg beater sort of scatters flour around the cabin, and
Yeah, good family sport.
besides, Jonesy's already got my favourite bowl, so he's really screwed the whole deal up here.
First up, get the best bowl.
Yeah. I actually stole some of Jonesy's beer while he wasn't looking.
Oh, mate.
He held to pay when he finds out.
No, actually, it's coming right.
Didn't have any faith
Oh,
in
no,
us,
no,
eh?
complete faith. Absolutely complete faith in you,
Yeah.
Chris.
It's not very often you get the opportunity to walk into the kitchen of the restaurants, is it, and see what's going on there.
Definitely not. You vouch for the quality. No doubting
And the
freshness
freshness. Yeah.
of the tucker.
It's only 20 minutes flight from the Wellington airport to here by helicopter, so 1 minute they're in the middle of Wellington or Auckland and step off the jet into the helicopter, and 20 minutes later they're here. To see the expression on their faces when they arrive, it's like they've just stepped into another world, and they certainly have.
So if people want to find out about this little excursion, come adventure, do they get in touch with Chris Jolly?
That's right, yeah. Just with our office at Taupo.
When I was growing up, I read a book written by Nelson Hunter Newton McConaughey called You'll Learn No Harm from the Hills. By the time I read it, I had stayed in many huts, slogged over miles of terrain in search of animals, and had come to appreciate the joy that comes from time in the bush with good company. You can learn much of value by interacting with the great outdoors. I strongly subscribe to Newton McConaughey's philosophy and believe that you will learn no harm from the hills, you will learn a great deal about yourself and get fit in the bargain.
Beautiful fresh here. What exactly are you doing? Show us with a fresh one
Right.
what the
We're
process
making
is.
ashtrays. This is what it's all about. Yeah. There's a big market for
Sounds
ashtrays. Aren't they beautiful? Look at that. There is, of course, quite
That
an
all comes
industry.
out too, that
Yeah.
brown stuff. It looks just beautiful.
Righto, Graham. Well, we've had these powers in the hot water for a minute or two, and as you can see, that makes them nice and easy to come out of the shell.
Sure.
No struggling or cutting yourself with a knife as you try and remove them from the shell.
And that completes the tenderisation process.
It does. I mean, you feel that. That's not like the power that you know, is it? That's
Finger went into it.
You could, and we do, make sashimi with that. It's so soft and you can eat it raw. Beautiful. So we just removed the gut section. Then there's little grinding teeth, those fellas there. And everything else goes through the mincer. We just slice them up to make life a little bit easier for the mincer.
So that is tender.
It is.
What
Yep,
about
certainly. You could dip that in a little bit of soy with some wasabi and it'd be pretty acceptable, wouldn't it?
Pretty acceptable as it is, mate.
You don't have to mince up power to make it taste superb. As seafood goes, it is often ill prepared, so remember the dunking in water vacated by the crayfish. It's an easy way to tenderise paua, and you have a number of culinary options available. I like my paua cut into strips and pan-fried for a few seconds. Delicious. As too are the good old crayfish. It really is a pity you can't join us for lunch. Quite a stroll planned, an afternoon wander through the gullies around the Blowhard Hut. It is important to have a full fuel tank before a prolonged stretch of the legs, and of course our morning swim had put lunch on the table. Everywhere you look around this hut and every conversation you get into, one thing becomes clear. These blokes have a passion for hunting, not killing for the sake of it, but taking enough for a feed, just like the paua and crayfish we were feasting on.
I like it.
Come and turn that. It's his bum.
Beer induced, I think, not sort of sun or anything else.
I don't think I've had a sleep in the middle of the day, except when it's been raining.
You knock a few hydraulic sandwiches back there, Jonesy.
This style of accommodation is everyone's cup of tea, but it's warm and dry, and as far as hunting camps go, it's downright luxurious. As soon as we started to make our plans, the weather deteriorated. But just like the dive, there was no way I was going to get out of a hunt. It was time to hit the trail.
It's miserable, but we're going hunting, so you're very welcome to join us. About as welcome as you were to join us for lunch, but I didn't see anyone turn up for that. You sure you want to do this?
No.
The rain's just picked up
But
a
I've heard
couple
you're
of...
not much competition at cards, so we might as well go hunting.
Right. Here's the rifle prepared for the wet weather. Got a cover on the scope so it doesn't get wet, and then another little trick is to put a piece of insulation tape on the end of the barrel so the water doesn't go down there. Now, for people that don't hunt actively, whenever you pick up a rifle, which you shouldn't do unless you ask permission of the owner and the owner is present, always make sure that the bolt handle is open. That's that thing. Always make sure that that's open and there's nothing in here. Golden rule number 1. Do you think I've delayed long enough?
Well, I was just
I
thinking
can't
that
think of anything else to say.
the yellow insulation tape, just so you know which end is which.
Oh, it's nice to have a couple of pack animals along.
I prefer to hunt on my own, at my own pace and without the extra noise created by a couple of mates and a cameraman. But television sometimes means that you have to compromise. This was also an area I'd never been in. Chris and Colin know the place like the back of their hand, and their knowledge would ensure that I wouldn't get lost. Beneath the Kanuka-clad ridges, there are some excellent stands of native forest. Here and there are grassy glades, the sorts of places that deer love to feed on. As the storm eased, the deer started to move around. It didn't take long before we were seeing animals and getting ourselves in position for a shot.
Chicken dinner.
Thank you. Dinner.
What we have with us for these occasions. Now that Colin refuses to card out whole animals, we just take out, first of all, the things that keep the cameras dry. Then we have a little net bag, right?
Yeah.
Then we bone out the meat, so we're not carting out any bone, just meat. So we hang it in the tree, bone it out, put it in a plastic rubbish bag in there, so we're carrying out all the meat. We're not wasting any. We're not wasting any energy. They're trying to card out all that animal. I mean, it's got past those heroics when you get to our age and stage.
That's not a bad sort of day. Start off with a dive and feed a poa, feed a crayfish.
You see those big, heavy caliber pig shits back there?
Yeah, some big pigs in there too. We've seen some deer. Well, that's for sure. Unbelievable. If you have an interest in hunting, I strongly recommend that you start with a firearms license and lessons on firearms safety. Next, team up with responsible people who know their way around the bush. A good teacher will ensure that you learn no harm from the hills. What I find most important is that successful hunters take only what they can carry, and they accept responsibility for their actions and take the meat home. It is great after a successful stalk to continue to hunt with a camera. You can learn a lot about the animals and record your memories for later scrutiny. Well, it's a wee day with a difference and a show with a difference. Here we are, having had a feed of crays and a feed of paua and the old pancakes that Colin made, and now it's time to hang the venison in a tree for a couple of days and then feast on that for a week or two. So if you want this sort of action, if it's what you're interested in doing, get in touch with Chris Jolly in Taupo. It's not a bad sort of day. And coming up on